Thank you, Chairman. I just think we have 4 items that are follow-up items from that meeting. And they are the water access dock use for non-boating park users, the idea of the covered area, the tree locations, and an issue that was brought up subsequent to the meeting, which is the potential fall hazard that might occur from having steps to the water. So we'll take those in order, and I'll briefly summarize them and then see if the commissioners will have more discussion on them, and then we'll move on to the next one. So Commissioner Cohen reiterated a point that he's made at other meetings, the last meeting, which is that he would like to make sure that the people who come to the docks for fishing and using the docks just to have contact with the water and enjoy the scenery have the ability to continue to do that with the new dock project. And we went through aspects of the new design that would allow that. And I think, I don't want to say he was satisfied, but I think he felt like his issue was addressed. And I just want to see if the commissioners want to discuss that any further at this point.
This is Commissioner Westberg. Do we need to clarify on the plan that there will be ladder access from the water to the dock on the, I assume on the North Pier? Is that part of the concept?
It isn't in the concept plan, but that's a requirement.
Okay.
It's gonna happen.
Okay.
We actually already have a ladder on the dock on the North Pier now.
Right, I know. So do we need to do anything then with the new docks?
We'll do whatever the requirement is. There usually has to be some kind of self-rescue feature.
That would also allow someone who wanted to dive off the dock to climb back on.
Yes.
Okay. So from there, I wasn't quite sure what Don's concern was, other than with the specific design, other than to reiterate his belief that the docks need to be accessible to all.
I thought about this over the weekend, and I don't know if this is Commissioner Cohen's perspective, but right now the docks are an awesome non-boating water access feature because they're pretty unusable for most boaters, and so they've been used very well by non-boaters for many years. And you go down there in the summer and you see that most people using the docks are sunbathing or fishing. And there is going to be a change to some degree because there are going to be more boaters there. So I mean, there is a change coming. And I think we do need to acknowledge that. But I believe the breakwater is a very long concrete decked stable structure that's going to still serve as a large area for people to hang out, and the North Pier will still be there. So we have those. So anyway, I'm just repeating myself from last meeting, but I'm trying to frame it a little bit.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Struck. I mean, I don't have any additional comments. I think that just what you just said, Paul, I think provides plenty of opportunity. I think as we saw in that brief video that you showed, I think last time, I mean, it seemed like most of the, like for example, fishermen or people fishing generally fish either early in the morning or at dusk type of thing, because that's when the fish are generally biting as opposed to middle of the day. And plus you've got the north dock there. So I think I'm comfortable with where we're at.
just had a quick question. Are there rules about fishing on docks where boats are though? Because I mean, I'm thinking about down at Jean Coulon and Renton where it's pretty busy boat traffic. And I mean, could you have someone fishing right near the boats? Or are there laws or policies about or around that?
Ryan, you look like you're ready.
I would say that I'm not aware of any specific laws, but it could be a park rule that could be implemented, which on Mercer Island is up to the directors, is a director level decision, but likely in a scenario like this, the commission would be engaged.
Yeah, I wasn't suggesting anything one way or another. I was just kind of asking about it. And I mean, I think as Commissioner Struck was saying, and again, the video, I was going to mention that too. It seems like it naturally doesn't happen at the same time, but the sunbathing and passive use could definitely coincide with the boaters in the late afternoon. And I guess we'll just see how it pans out.
Yep. Okay.
Great. Okay, let's move on to covered area. I'm going to share my screen. I'm not sure, what the covered area need is. So I'm gonna. I just have a couple slides here, or I have one slide on this. So it just shows. This just shows some idea. I just pulled these images off the web for what could go on top of the restrooms is what I was specifically thinking as the covered area. I'm not sure what the commissioners are thinking, if they're thinking covering part of the plaza. But since we were having an outdoor classroom on top of the restrooms, I thought that made most sense as a covered area. But I'm going to just open it up to the commissioners for discussion.
I guess I'm remembering, I think when we originally talked about this is Lynn Gualtieri speaking, with the full commission, people were talking about, fishing in the rain in the winter. So I think that was what people were primarily suggesting it would be for. I don't know if anyone else remembers something different.
This is Commissioner Struck. Yeah, I remember the discussion. Again, I think it is really for more in the winter time or when there's inclement weather. Wouldn't it be nice to kind of make this certain parts of this area, plaza, et cetera, kind of available for 20 or 12-month year-round use. I'm not a big fisherman, but generally when you fish, you kind of the cast, you got to kind of go like that. And so having something over your head really wouldn't work very well. But, in terms of the classroom or something like that above there, I could see it. I guess I'm not kind of predisposed to it, but I guess that would, I just don't know, in the wintertime or whatever, how many people would you get out there? And on a day like today, you'd probably prefer to see the sunshine. So.
This is Commissioner Westberg. Paul, can you remind us again of the context in which this came up at our last meeting? I don't recall a discussion of the furnishings or how the classroom area, the outdoor classroom area might be equipped, but I don't recall other discussions about overhead structures or shelter. Because I always thought if you fished in the winter, you were willing to take on whatever the elements threw at you, particularly if you're a steelhead fisherman. But
I have in my notes that it was Jody, Commissioner McCarthy, that raised that issue, the question about is there a covered area, or was that contemplated? And I don't have anything more than that.
Okay,
So
because I think, I don't think that we should entertain the idea of a covered area on the dock per se. And I think any covering on the classroom area should be something that could be erected and then taken down after the season, not a permanent year-round structure. That's my 2 cents worth.
Nope. Chair Struck, you're muted.
Peter, your mute is on.
Oh. You were,
Oh, I was on mute. I'm sorry. Yeah, so I agree with Commissioner Westbury. I guess my question was in terms of like on the classroom, a covering of some type, based on kind of previous experience, is that something that would enhance that experience, or is it really, well, it happens generally only in the summertime, so using a covered classroom in the kind of wintertime or rainy months probably would have very low demand to begin with. I just don't know.
If I might, Paul,
Yeah.
chime in. Ryan Daly, Operations Transition Team Manager. From a programmatic level of usage of that space or proposed usage of that space, I think my inclination would be that it would be up to the program to provide that temporary structure. It seems to me that there could be a conflict between various user groups, some wanting and some not wanting a covered amenity. So that's just to provide a little bit of input from what I've heard from, whether it be we're thinking, I think, water-based activities, but it could be an early morning yoga class taking place up there or something like that. So there is a lot of opportunity that may or may not need that covered aspect. So I think the commission's ideas around temporary structure or even a portable style structure may be the smartest approach to accommodate the greatest needs.
I would agree with that, Commissioner Stark.
okay. Commissioner Galtieri's thumbs up. Okay, we're all thumbs up. Okay, so the direction is a temporary or portable as needed canopy determined by the program.
And this is Commissioner Westberg. I'd go so far as to say any of the furnishings that are needed up there on that space for teaching or whatever would be temporary placements.
Mhm.
So that, in the dead of winter, you'd have a level but unoccupied area. Unless there was a group that wanted to bring in chairs, whatever.
Okay, good. All good? Great. Okay, and the next thing is the tree locations and the number of trees. Again, I'm gonna share my screen. So if you look at, can you see the bottom of that image on your screen? There's 3 red circles and 3 green circles. The 3 red circles are where the current trees are. And this is a idea for creating greater spacing. The trees that are there are red maples, and they could have gotten, if they had the proper growing conditions, they would have gotten to be fairly large trees and would have been spaced on 25-foot spacing or greater. So this is one option for spacing larger trees. And the reason I'm continuing to consider a tree the size of the red maple is they would provide shade and kind of the stature of the plaza. I think small trees would probably appear kind of wimpy in this kind of plaza setting. And if there's only going to be 3 of them, they should be fairly robust. But this spacing shown here is pretty much a minimum spacing for that size tree. So I also developed another spacing which is a little bit bigger, just to play with that and see if 3 trees could fit at a larger spacing. And I think this would work. It would be thinking about that these trees are probably going to have some kind of suspended pavement around them. In other words, there wouldn't be a tree pit like you see on a lot of streets. The trees would be planted in a soil medium that would actually extend under the pavement for quite an area, so that the tree could have enough soil to grow to full size. And so that means that the trucks and people walking by them can walk right up next to them. There's not a lot of space that the trees needed to maneuver around. So a truck coming down the driveway here could be able to make the turn and go between 2 trees to get to the boiler building. But this is a bigger footprint for the trees. Not sure what the commission thinks. We could go to 2 trees or 1 tree. I think those are also legitimate options. A one tree scenario would work very well for just plunking it kind of right in the middle of this part of the plaza, which is kind of separate from the rest of the plaza. It's the area kind of leading to the dock. And 1 tree there, with a picnic table, certainly could be a very nice amenity. But in the effort to try to preserve trees, I've tried to fit 3 trees in. So I'll stop sharing there. Any discussion on that?
This is Commissioner Westbrook. Paul, are you considering reusing the existing red maple trees or bringing in new trees?
They'd need to be new.
Okay, and how big does that tree get? 40 feet?
40 or 50 feet tall, depending on what style they can spread from anywhere from 20 to 40 feet. I mean, the ones that are down there are more of an upright.
Right.
So that would probably be the kind that we would also choose to kind of keep them somewhat contained. They're not extending out over the entire plaza.
Yeah. I don't know. My gut reaction to the diagrams you put out would be to probably go with the 1 tree option. And locate it, because you could create a nice shady area around that plaza, and then not have the whole area overwhelmed with tree cover and shade. You want it to be sunny, and it would get mostly morning sun anyway. So that's my 2 cents worth.
This is Commissioner Struck. I would concur with Commissioner Westberg's thought about perhaps just the single tree. I could potentially see 2. I think the 3rd one that was kind of impinging a little bit into, or encroaching a little bit into the plaza area, that was the one I probably had a little bit of less desire for. The other question I had was, looking at that aerial, it looked like the roof line of the classroom, I guess, or the concessions building, restroom building. Yeah, it looks like, a lot of the tree cover kind of overlaps or, encroaches on that. Would those, putting a classroom there or viewing area, whatever you want to call it, would there be trimming of trees kind of back to kind of open that up a little bit? Has that even been discussed?
It hasn't been discussed. My recollection of the area is it's not as overgrown as it looks in that picture.
Okay,
So there could be the distortion of the aerial. That, you know, the aerial sometimes tends to show an angle, a view from an angle. And you can't quite tell. Like, but I can't tell you for sure. But-
okay. I just looked at it, that's kind of just jumped out at me, but I'm
Yeah.
sure there'll be plenty of time to, that's probably not part of this discussion anyway, so.
I don't think that there's any, I can't think of a tree down there from my recollection that would be harmed by pruning those branches back if they're really overhanging the roof that much.
Yeah.
Because they're all most of the trees there are set back up on the slope. And maybe that's what's happening is we're seeing trees that are much higher on the slope that really, that may be overhanging that much, but they're not, it's so high up that you don't notice it.
Got it. Yeah, okay.
This is Commissioner Westberg. As I recall from my last walk down through there, it looked like you would have to cut back, not trees necessarily, but some of the branches and brush in order to accommodate a ramp on the backside of that building that would be wide enough to meet ADA requirements. So that would almost of necessity, to the extent that there were any low branches overhanging the roof line would probably result in them, those branches being cut back.
Any further comments or discussion on this one?
I was just gonna say, I don't know about one tree, but I'm all for two trees, although I remember, Paul, you said from a landscape architecture point of view, odd numbers were better. But the tree close to the road down there, the furthest tree inland, yeah, that one seems a little odd. I wouldn't mind getting rid of that one. But I kind of like shade. I don't, not everyone likes full sunshine, but definitely, or if it is just going to be one where, yeah, I mean, I like that better, but I still think you could get rid of the most inland tree there. Definitely one tree. I like the tree near the red dots the best in that first, or I guess your second version there. I guess if it's one tree, I like it down near those red dots. But I don't know, I think a second tree in the middle of the plaza is not a bad idea.
Yeah, I don't want us to be totally constrained by some rule of thumb here. If it makes sense, if two trees make sense, let's do two trees.
Anyway, I don't have a really strong opinion for one versus two. But wasn't there something like if we removed three, don't we have to put three back or something? Amy Richter was asking that.
I think there will be a tree permit involved in this at some point, but we will find places to plant trees, so I'm not worried about that.
I'm fine with starting, let me ask you this, Paul. If we start with one, I guess would depend a little bit on the pavement and so forth, but at some point in the future, I guess you could always add one, right? Not that that's great planning, but you could always do that.
It's pretty tough to add one because in order for these trees to actually grow well, they need the soil underneath the pavement to be constructed in a way that supports growth. So it really is something that has to be decided before construction.
This is Commissioner Westberg. How wide is the plaza from the water's edge to the restrooms?
From the bulkhead, say?
Yeah, from the bulkhead to the restrooms, to the edge of the building. That's only about 25 feet, isn't it?
I'm going to say it's more like the restroom is 40 feet long.
Okay.
So this is probably about 30.
Okay.
A little more.
Yeah. So a tree located in there is going to pretty much shade the whole area in front of the restrooms.
Mhm.
Okay.
But I think what I'm hearing is that 3 trees is too many and 1 or 2 is probably right. Is that
I agree with that.
Yeah,
Yes.
great? That's good progress because, I'm glad the question was raised at the commission meeting so we could revisit that.
So I have one more question about the trees.
Mhm.
If it's so shaded, is it going to prevent like drying out of the pavement underneath the tree and then buildup of moss over time? These types of trees? Are you not worried about that?
Uh, I'm trying to envision where we have, we blow all our surfaces and keep leaves off them. These surfaces should be designed to drain, so they have at least 0.25% pitch in some direction so that the water sheds to a drain area. So, and in the winter, these would be deciduous trees. The winter there would be air circulation. So I don't think they would accumulate water. So I'm not sure how moss would really grow. I don't see moss really under the trees now, other than there's grass growing in the tree pits and there's mud where water accumulates. So I don't think the moss is really going to be an issue.
okay, thank you.
Great. Then the last issue is the steps down to the water, and into the discussions we have had since the meeting, we realize we have steps at Clark Beach currently that are similar to what is being envisioned for the bulkhead at Luther. So I just wanted to provide a picture to give you an idea of what that could look like. I don't know that it would be this wide. I'm not sure, I don't have any idea what that strapping is, other than probably some kind of repair. So I don't think that's a feature that we want. But I guess in discussing this with Chair Struck, my conclusion was that we would probably need to do whatever is code. And if there's a fall hazard, there's probably going to be a railing at the bottom of these steps. I don't know a way around that, but I don't know what, I think that's going to have to be figured out in 30% design. And my suggestion is that we not try to solve that problem at this point. We let it be designed, and then we see what the design comes up with and think about it then.
This is
Okay.
Commissioner Westberg. My recollection is that Andy's first design had a railing along there at the water's edge rather than up at the top, or one of his designs did.
At the bottom of the steps.
Yeah. So I agree. I don't think we can solve that today. I think we need to figure out what's required.
This is Commissioner Struck. Paul, I do have a question. Does the city have any information about any, I'll just call them safety incidents or accidents at Clark? Because those steps have been in there for a number of years that would suggest there's some kind of risk there, or we do have any data on that?
I'm not aware of any.
Okay. All right. So that kind of concludes kind of the 4 topics that were, brought up in the previous meeting and so forth. To the commissioners, are there any additional elements or concepts that you want to should have further discussion or clarification from staff before we kind of put a wrap on it?
Go ahead, Lynn.
Oh, this is Commissioner Gualtieri. Again, back to the outdoor classroom. So there aren't going to be any permanent benches. There's basically nothing up there. It's just a platform, or are we getting into those details?
I think I think you can get into those details now, and you can have a chance to do that again at 30% concept. But what I'm hearing, what I heard so far is that have it be a blank slate deck and let the programming drive whatever is brought in there on, some kind of temporary basis or seasonal basis, whatever that is.
Okay, thanks.
This is Commissioner Westberg. Not to belabor the issue of the steps, but I throw this out to my fellow commissioners, having seen the pictures of Clark Beach and the way the steps age over time. Is that an installation you would still favor putting in at Luther Burbank? Or certainly in the design, we should perhaps emphasize something that over time would age better and appear more aesthetically pleasing, because those look pretty grim.
Do you want to
This
say,
is-
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
We haven't just determined what the steps are made out of. And I could see a situation where the steps are not concrete. I'm not sure what else they would be. Or they could be concrete with brick edging, or the Luther Burbank Park in general has a pavement style that is concrete with brick banded edging. And that, I think, adds some character to otherwise plain concrete. So that's an option.
This is Commissioner Westberg. Do you think it'd be possible to construct them using a similar material to the open graded dock material, so that they didn't appear so heavy and so that they weren't impervious? You could have water passing through the steps into the lake.
I've wondered that too. I could see a scenario where the steps are actually are suspended off the bulkhead and don't have any bottom contact at all, which would also help us with permitting. And then if they were graded, as you're suggesting, that would help us with permitting as well. So I think that's going to be something to explore in design.
Paul, do you have any idea on the lifespan of, talking about Clark Beach, any idea on what the lifespan of those steps would be, or could be presumed if concrete?
Well, the ones at Clark Beach are undermined, and I would say they're getting close to the end of their lifespan. So 50 years is probably reasonable. They were constructed in 74, so same as the dock. So we're coming up on 45 years right now.
And this is Commissioner Westberg, and the ones at Luther Burbank would not be, they would be exposed to the full force of the wave action coming off the lake, because there's no breakwater protecting them.
That's correct.
This is Commissioner Strick. I guess that is just another reason to kind of explore, like Commissioner Westberg was saying about some, different design techniques to try to, mitigate some of those issues, but still, try to maintain the concept we're talking about. Okay. Any other comments, thoughts on additional things? All right, hearing none. The last agenda item is the preparation for the April 1st commission meeting. And Paul, you want to provide a little commentary there?
Yeah, thank you. So great. First of all, I'm really excited. We have a concept plan that is going to go to the full commission for approval on April 1st. We don't know how that process will play out, but here are the steps to get to April 1st. Just as we did with Aubrey Davis Park Trail Safety Improvements Project, we need to have a memo of recommendation to City Council, and the full commission has to review that before that can go to City Council. So what I'm envisioning, and subject to discussion here, is that I will draft a memo that basically pulls together all the discussion and reasoning that we've gone through to get to this point, that will then come to the April 1st meeting, along with the concept plan and any the revisions that we've made along the way, including today. Today we really the outdoor classroom being a blank space, and then the full commission gets to review that memo and review the draft plan. Oh, we'll also get a cleaned up graphic for the concept plan and a cleaned up list of all the improvements that are contemplated. We have a draft one right now. We'll clean that up. So 3 products: graphic plan, list of improvements, and the memo to the council. And I'm gonna need help with the memo. I'm gonna draft it. I'm gonna draft it in the next week. And we're on a timeline such that the following week, I would like at least one or more of your commissioners, so that we're ready to publish it a week before the next commission meeting. So if you're willing to do that, that would be great. We'll also have internal review. Ryan will review it, and Jason and Jesse. So I'm not worried about it being a good memo. I'm worried about it representing the concept plan well, and the process too long-winded either. So and then there's the if the commission approves it at the April 1st meeting, then it goes on to City Council for presentation at what we've currently got scheduled as the May 18th meeting. It's on the planning calendar, and that gives us, if there's some reason why we need to revise it or do some other work on it, we still have the May 4th commission meeting to revisit it before the May 18th meeting. So that's our safety. We don't have to approve it at the April 1st meeting. So that's the overview. Any discussion there?
This is Commissioner Stark. I have one question, Paul. So in terms of any more community input, now that kind of the preferred concept plan has gelled, will I believe the April 1st meeting, the full commission meeting, that this document would be put out on the agenda ahead of time. So theoretically, those interested in the community could look at that and then make a public appearance / comment to the commission about what they like, don't like, et cetera, et cetera.
That's correct. And I would
Okay.
also be emailing the interest list so that people who have expressed interest in knowing about this project will get notice of that Parks and Rec Commission meeting.
Okay.
We can do some other promotion too. We did quite a bit of promotion for the last Parks and Rec Commission meeting because that was the kind of the first public viewing of the concept plan. So we had quite a big push in social media on that one, but we can do some of that again.
All right. Yeah, any other questions for Paul about kind of the next steps on putting the memo together?
No questions. It makes sense to me from a timeline standpoint. It does give us the option of taking the May meeting if there are issues that do come up that the commission feels overall should be investigated a little further. And then we can also remind members of the public that at the 30% design phase, there'll be another big push to get comment, people to weigh in. So it's not a done deal.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, I think that should conclude the agenda items. Unless I hear anything else, time is now 3:48, and the subcommittee has no further scheduled meetings. I would like to thank all involved for serving on this subcommittee. And as a reminder to participants, please stay seated until the city staff has terminated the Zoom broadcast. Good afternoon. Stay safe and healthy. Thank you.